This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek, and I'm talking with Brian McWilliams. He's past president of the ILWU, and recently a statement has been issued by him and other ILWU members raising the issue of the support for the war in Ukraine and whether or not the ILWU should support that war.
Well, clearly there is international policy related to the issue that's not being followed, and the International Convention sets those policies, and that's the instructions to the officers and the divisions to follow through with. And how something different happened is a problem that needs to be addressed. We have never supported any wars in this way. That clearly the only victim are working people and families. And this war, if you could call it a war, it's a capitalist action. And, you know, the idea that ending this war will bring peace is kind of a misnomer. You can't, I mean, peace doesn't mean that nobody's shooting at you. It just means different people have different perceptions about peace. And if you have to live in fear, there is no peace. And the resolution for this war is not one that's going to really bring peace. I don't see how the conflict between the West and the East is going to get resolved here. It's just a continuation of the same thing that's gone on since the end of World War II, where we've just continued to encourage and spread profiteering that war brings along with it. We've been involved in wars in the whole time, my whole life, we've been involved in wars, and the wars are profitable. People can make a lot of money. The corporate entities can do really well in wars, and working people pay the price. And that we would support one side or another in this situation is really against all of our own best interests, and I don't know how this could have happened. Anyway, I'm not a representative anymore of the union. I just have an opinion, and I don't speak for the union. I'm a retired person. I just was upset that the collective wisdom of the delegates in the convention wasn't followed through with.
And the ILWU's history has been, as you say, against war. There was a West Coast strike against the war in Iraq, but the ILWU has had a long tradition of opposing militarization, opposing war. What has happened that position has changed? Because it seems that, as you say, that there wasn't any debate or discussion among the rank and file of the ILWU about whether there should be a change in the position.
I can't speak to that, and I haven't been very involved in the inner workings of the union for quite a while now. So I've left that to the elected officials that we collectively, our working membership has chosen. And I'm disappointed that there's a disconnect between our philosophy and our marching orders, if you will, from the delegates that develop all our policies to what's actually being presented to the public or to the world. It's really a departure from anything that we've done in the pretty much, not entirely, because these things are happening more and more, but it's disturbing.
Recently, President Biden said that we may be facing an Armageddon. Nancy Pelosi, the House, went to Taiwan, and it seems that we're hurtling towards a confrontation not only with Russia, but with China. What do you think is driving that?
I don't know. It would be purely speculative on my part. I don't want to do that right now, other than profit.
So the military-industrial complex, the war profiteers, this militarization and all the weapons that are going to Ukraine.
We can't take care of our domestic home issues. We're spending more money. People are going to work every day to support this issue. Where we have by far the biggest military in the world. Our Air Force is the biggest Air Force in the world, and the second biggest Air Force in the world, besides the United States Air Force, is the United States Navy's Air Force. And, you know, there are incredible investments being made in perpetuating the war machine and our dominance worldwide. We have bases all over the world. We're exerting our military. It's not the road to peace. It might be the road to military domination where people aren't actually shooting at each other in some way, but it has nothing to do with peace. And people, if they live in fear of anything, of freedom of expression, freedom of association, whatever freedoms we have, if those are in jeopardy, people can't live in peace. They live in fear of whatever issue has been deprived through this military might and exertion of power and force.
The ILWU is involved in the formation of the Labor Party, Alliance for a Labor Party, and the idea that the union should have their own political party. It didn't work out. That organization was not able to go forward. Do you see the same needs for working people in the United States?
Well, of course. Workers should have their own political party. I mean, the bosses have too. Why shouldn't we have one?
And the unions provide millions and millions of dollars to the Democrats mostly. That's what most of their effort is taken up in elections for the Democrats. Do you think the Democrats are going to save working people in this country?
Well, they've been terribly disappointing. They haven't done it yet, so I don't see any reason why I should think they would in the future.
And what can working people do? I mean, I think that the action by the ILWU International in supporting the war in Ukraine, the United States, is not unique. Many other unions in the AFL-CIO, the Teamsters, SEIU have taken similar positions. How do you see that changing at this point in the United States?
Changing, you mean in terms of the labor leadership changing their position on...
That's right, or the rank and file changing the unions so the unions are not at this point supporting more militarization, more war?
I don't know. In the case of dock workers worldwide, we have the ability to stop working military cargo, and that's a leadership role that we've borne over time, and workers get on board with that. I mean, the leadership is sometimes not in touch with their memberships, and that's what really needs to happen. The democratic trade union movement really needs to prevail, and how to support that, how to make it more organic is really a huge challenge for us.
And the railroad workers recently had a fight over their working conditions, over their wages. Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh worked with the management and the unions to work out some kind of arrangement. I don't know whether it will be voted up or down. The ILWU is working past a contract expiration. It seems like the government, really, the Biden administration, doesn't want workers to take work action for saying it will disrupt the economy and increase inflation. I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, the leadership that's always a position of leadership. They don't want to have to deal with the stark reality that workers are getting screwed. They want to pretend everything is okay. And when workers speak up for themselves, it's uncomfortable for them. They don't like that. So they've got to deal with it, though. They've got these unions have to have the backbone and support from all of us to follow through so that they can prevail in something that's fair and reasonable for the workers that provide so much for us in this country.
And there is a growing struggle of young people, particularly unionization, Starbucks, Amazon. It seems like workers are fed up, and particularly after this pandemic and how they were treated, there's a growing anger in the working class about their conditions and also their future.
Well, that's created by the boss. The boss creates those situations and the opportunities for us to speak out about how we need to be treated, how we take care of each other in the workplace, how we have any kind of hope for a future that is going to take care of our families and keep us motivated to participate in the economy. It's the bosses that create all those situations. Until the laws change so that we have a fair deal, there will be incidents of lots of organizing here and there and over there. But overall, the big picture, until we can change the way that the government, the laws, the rules restrict us. We'll have little victories here and there, but it's going to be too hard to prevail across the board without huge political changes.
And also there's a growing threat of xenophobia, anti-Asian violence. The attack on Chinese and China has led to escalating attacks on Asian Americans. It seems that immigrants, Asian Americans and others, are under direct threat as a result of this rising threats of war in Asia that's costing people.
Lament any of that. The xenophobia, I can't. It's hard to understand who we are and what we're about when that kind of stuff is going on. I haven't witnessed that personally, and I'm extensively involved in the Asian community here in San Francisco. But it's real. People aren't making this up, and I don't know how to explain that. I have no idea. These people built this country. They've been here longer than so many other immigrants, except for Native Americans, and they deserve to be honored in that way. That they're attacked across the board just because, for no reason, nobody understanding what that's about. I don't know. It's perplexing. I just am so sad about it all.
Do you see a revitalization of labor? There hasn't been, in our lifetime, a mass workers' movement, in fact, that formed the ILWU. There was a mass workers' movement at that time that led to the general strike and a mass mobilization of the working class. That hasn't happened since the 40s, 46, the last general strike in Oakland. There hasn't been that kind of mass mobilization. You think it's coming?
Well, I've been described as a pathological optimist by experts. So I can only believe that there has to be some hope that it will come. That's about all I can tell you.
Okay, well, thanks, Brian, for joining us on Work Week.
Very good.